Welcome back to the new NRLW Weekly podcast with me, Marley Silva, and NRLW legend Ruan Sims. Thanks to Light and Easy, fueling women in sport. On today's show, the competition is as even as it's ever been, and the Titans are the only team that remains undefeated. Mele Hafunga has had a huge day out, and we've got our second ever send-off in the NRLW. Kennedy Cherrington has landed herself in hot water after a dangerous tackle. Roosters star Isabelle Kelly also joins the show, but before we get into it, Ruan, it is a pleasure as always to be here with you in the studio. Another incredible weekend of women's footy.
Thanks, Marley. It was a great weekend of footy, and we saw some incredible skill level on display, and capped off with that performance on Sunday afternoon down at Canberra. That was incredible. So, but we're going to get into that further.
We will. We definitely will. We'll start as we always do with Rue's wrap. Give us who were your top three players from this round?
Top three players. You've already mentioned the first cabber off the rank, Mele Hafunga. She was devastating. Second player ever to score 4 tries in a game.
Wow.
First was Talina Simon for the Roosters, and I was part of that game, and I remember thinking, this is just incredible.
Yeah.
And then being able to call the action when Mele was playing, and obviously she scored 4 incredible tries. They were amazing efforts, but the whole team around her as well helped her too. And I think it was really good. It was really special that she acknowledged her team as well. So you can just see the camaraderie that's building up there. And, the first win for the Broncos as well, I think
Which is
really
crazy
helped.
To say, isn't it?
Well, crazy, but also just shows the level of competition that we have this year. And I think that's probably what's most exciting for me.
For sure. And who are some other players that really stood out for you? It's hard to look past that, but there's plenty on the...
Yeah, so Taryn Aiken was another one. Yep. I thought she had a really great game. Her running game was fantastic. She was playing on the ball. She was bringing her forwards and her outside backs and second row into the game really beautifully. So Taryn Aiken pops up on that list as well. And then it was also really hard to go past Samaima Tofa on the weekend. That performance that she put in against the Raiders, coming up against a New South Wales teammate in Sala Tongatuki. She knew she was going to have a massive performance and lead from the front, which she always does anyway. And I remember listening, and when the two of them came together, when they collided, Freddie, I'm pretty sure it was Freddie, he said, well, they collided, and he felt like he saw sparks coming off them because they're just two solid units, and they just came together like that. So, so Mima rounds out my top 3 this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to pick just 3. I know, every single game has had those standout moments, and it is making it so exciting. Is there a highlight across all of the games from round 3 that is a particular standout for you?
The highlight, other than the 4 tries, because I think we've covered that really well, I think it has to be that game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
To me, that game, especially when they're 2 brand new clubs, to see them come together and put into play the coach's tactics, to then also play what footy popped up ahead of them, and then also the skill level that was on display there. Ash Quinlan was fantastic for the Raiders as well, and she came up with some incredible plays. So, I think that last game in particular really stands out for me.
Yeah, and you were down there on the sideline in Canberra. Were those Raiders fans turning out again for that second home game?
Absolutely. And so, actually, I can probably say maybe my personal highlight for the round was I got to do the Viking clap. So I was so excited. I had the best time. And when I was sitting in the crowd, there was a group of women that I was sitting next to, and I was chatting to them, and they were the first women to play at GIO Stadium in 1991.
Stop
and
it.
that was pretty special. That was a pretty special personal moment.
Yeah.
So to see them there and to be able to sit with them and share that Viking clap was pretty special.
Oh, that is unreal. Yeah, no wonder that's your highlight. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, every single weekend, every time we're at games and things, I've had so many touch points with either younger girls or older women who can't believe that this is happening. And that's why I just feel so privileged that we get to watch this game unfold in this way.
Absolutely.
Now into probably the biggest story that came out of the weekend, and one that certainly was frightening and disappointing in different ways. Kennedy Cherrington from the Parramatta Eels, she has ended up copping the longest NRLW ban we've ever seen. So in her game on Sunday, she unfortunately got into a situation where she put Laishan Albert-Jones from the Knights in a really dangerous position in a tackle. It was an immediate send-off in the 43rd minute in the Eels 38-4 loss against the Knights in that grand final rematch. And she's now copped a 4-game ban after facing up to the judiciary. There immediately was a lot of discussion online about whether a ban like that is fair considering the length of the NRLW season, but you do feel like an example had to be made with such a dangerous tackle.
I think that it was the reason why it was only 4 weeks is because of the length of the season. And, you know, you see it immediately. Like, as the tackle's happening, you see her think, oh, no, oh, no. Yeah. It's more the fact that the player was put in a potentially catastrophic. Yes. Yeah. It was catastrophic. Yeah. But you see immediately, Kennedy's like, you can see her pull out and say, oh my goodness. Like, you see it all unfold. And, you know, obviously the physics of it as well. There was another player who was hanging onto the ball. So as the legs were lifted, the upper body was being pulled down. And just from the get-go, it was all going to end up pretty messy. Yeah. And really thankful that there's nothing seriously wrong with Laishan. I think that's probably most important, first and foremost. And then all of this would have been taken into consideration when the decision was made. And the decision would not have been made lightly. No. And, you know, I don't think it's about making an example per se. I just think it's like it's been deemed to be potentially catastrophic. It was also a second and subsequent offence. Okay. Which then, you know, obviously adds another layer to that. But again, I think it was handled well by the officials at the time, and it was handled well throughout the weekend. I can understand that Kennedy would be absolutely devastated. Of course. Because she's been leading that pack. She's their captain. She's been leading them throughout the season, especially without Elsie Albert and without Rachel Pearson there. She's been leading from the front the whole time. And I know that she'll be devastated, but I also know that she'll be relieved that there's nothing wrong with Laishan. Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah, it is a really tough one because, you don't want to see players sitting down for long periods of time, but also when things like that happen, they have to be dealt with correctly. And I think for people who maybe aren't fully aware of how those kind of numbers are measured and how long you have when you face an offence like that, it is comparative to the NRL men's kind of the way that judiciary works. When I saw this kind of laid out, it would be about 12 weeks if it was the men, but they do it percentage based on how long the competition is. Yes. Am I right in saying that? Yes, that's correct. So it is done on a pro rata basis. Yeah. It's not just what happens in the men's happens in the women. It is compared to the length of the competition. Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I don't want to be seeing Kennedy sit out like that. Nobody wants to see players sitting out for long periods of time. But at the same time, that, you know, was a dangerous tackle, and it was deemed to be on the matrix that you look at. In the women's, it's second and subsequent. Men's, it's third and subsequent offence. Okay, and so then obviously it was rated the highest there. Yeah. So. And I think that another important reminder is like you can feel quite emotive in your response when you see a sickening tackle like that. As you said, potentially catastrophic. I think like reminding fans and the public that there is no malice in that, and that accidents happen, and thank goodness it's a best case scenario in terms of injury. I always worry that sometimes because in the heat of the moment you go, oh my goodness, that was a horrendous thing to see, that there can always be that like little attacks online and things like that, and like no one deserves that. No, nobody deserves to be attacked online. No. And you know, it always disappoints me when I deliberately don't go online and read that stuff because I've been there and I'm sure I still cop it, but I don't read it anymore, so it doesn't bother me. Don't read the comments. That's the number one rule. Don't read anything. And, you know, it's like you said, things happen in footy that can be catastrophic. There's things that can be mitigated. There's things that can't be. There's things that just happen. Yeah. You know, so you just have to deal with it and you just have to roll with it as it goes. And I think what you said is correct. If you take the emotion out of it, that takes a lot of the heat out of it as well. For sure. And you can still penalise somebody, or you can still have a consequence for something without any kind of nastiness or emotive hatred or anything like that behind it. You can still come up with the correct decision at the end and still removing the heat out of it. So which is why I think it's been handled.
Yeah,
well,
for sure. I think like we can almost think about it like, say, as an average person, you've run a red light in your car, and like that can be really dangerous, and there's consequences for that. But like you don't go around thinking that person's a terrible person, or that they should be, personally attacked because of a mistake that they've made. So
yeah, and I think like I've been pretty vocal about this stuff in the past. I hate all of that trolling and hatred online, and it needs to stop, in my opinion.
100%. I couldn't agree with that more. Welcome back to the all-new NRLW Weekly podcast with me, Marley Silva, and assistant Sky Blues coach Ruan Sims, thanks to Light and Easy, fueling women in sport. And now we've got a little conversation that we had with Roosters star Isabelle Kelly just a couple of weeks ago. Izzy Kelly, thank you for joining us. You're a busy woman, but you're looking ready to go for this season. How are you feeling leading up to it?
Really good. I'm really excited. Like, we've got some new players. We've got some young girls that have just really built their way within our team, and they're kind of leaders now. So I'm just really excited to see kind of everyone step on that stage and shine, not just for the Roosters, but for all the new teams.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see like some new girls just make their name within our game.
Yeah. It does feel like, now we're talking about it, it's been a long time since we've seen NRLW. Obviously, we had Origin recently, but because last year we had the 2 seasons in the year, I feel like we're kind of spoilt for choice with women's footy, and then now we've had to wait so long.
Yes.
Have you been twiddling your thumbs?
Yes, last year was an overload, wasn't it? It was like women's footy everywhere. But no, really excited. Like, I've been waiting for this, like, and we all wait for NRLW. We want to put our best foot forward. We want to play good footy. We want to make the game grow. Like, we want young girls coming into sport. Like, there's so many reasons why we do it as a collective, and we love to play it. But for me, I just couldn't wait to pull on this Chookies uniform again. I love the Chookies, love being a part of this club. So I just can't wait to lead them and go out there with all the girls.
Yeah. You spoke about some of those young girls who have become leaders. Which of your teammates have really stood out in this preseason? Yeah,
so we've got Maya, Parney's 19. Like, Maya's only a baby as well. Like, they're in our middle pack, and they've just really stood up the last year. And it's so exciting when you see someone from the very start to who they are now grow as a human, and not just physically but mentally as well, and the way that they, put themselves out there. Like, I just think it's a massive wrap for them because they've come so far. So they're like, Maya's in our leadership group now, and yeah, just really proud of all of them. But then we've got some great leaders as well that are always in our team. We've got Millie, we've got Keely, a lot of great people that just work really well within our club.
Yeah, I mean, it must be, you've been a part of the NRLW since its inception.
I'm an old gal.
Which is still very young. But,
Thank you. No one ever says that. I always cop it. And I'm like, 26. And I'm like, they're like, you've been around for ages. I'm like, I'm still 26.
Yeah,
Give
you
me
were
a
just
break.
a baby when you started.
I know.
And also, my goodness, we're young until you feel like it.
I agree. I might be feeling it, but that's okay.
That's a whole other thing, isn't it? You have been a part of it for a long time, and then I guess you can probably see the difference with some of these 19-year-olds coming in who've been able to actually pursue this career. Like you, I'm assuming growing up, you didn't even think that this would be a reality.
No, not at all.
Is it sick to see them actually be like, I've been chasing NRLW for the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's really good. When I started, obviously we're only playing representative footy. So I debuted in a Jillaroos match, which was crazy to think, isn't it? So I hadn't played any NRLW at all. But now you look at the pathways that are coming through, and I go to gala days and I do all that sort of stuff and see the young girls going from like young to teenagers all the way through to the Open. So it just shows that we're doing the right thing within the women's game. But to see like the 19-year-olds now, I'm like, oh my God, that's scary. Like we've got a girl as is a development contract at the moment. She's 16, Aaliyah, and she is a hybrid. I am so glad I'll probably be retired so that I never have to verse you, or I'll just keep signing to the club that you're at. But it's scary. Like, there's so many girls coming through that are just so talented, but that's what we want. We want them to come through, be in the NRLW and playing their best footy, and that's exactly what's happening.
Speaking about your team, right? We've got to learn a bit more about the characters.
Okay.
So who would you say, is there a prankster or someone who's, a big joker?
There is. There's probably a few. Probably Keely. Keely we're probably going to mention in all these. Or Parney, the young one that I mentioned you about, 19. She's a bit of a trickster, a bit of a stirrer, a bit loud. So, probably either those two.
Yeah.
I would have to say, yeah.
Yeah. And why do you name them as that?
Like, Keely, gives really well, but she also cops it really well. So she's always up for a joke. She thinks she says things that are funny sometimes too, and I'm like, I don't know where you got that from, but yeah, she's one that I'm like has to be the trickster, and then Pani will just like say things and do things or pick on people, not in a bad way, no bullying, but just in a funny way sort of thing. So that's probably why.
A gentle bullying is because you care about someone. You only do that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm probably guilty of that a little bit because I like them too much. So I'm like, I don't want them to know how much I like them. So I'll just give them a little bit of crap.
Between you and Millie, this is turned into a Keely. We're going to have to get like a reaction video.
You're going to have to get cute, when it comes out.
And then see what she has to say back. Give her a response
great.
or whatever. Big thanks to Izzy for coming on and having that chat with us. She's just such a superstar of the game. It's amazing watching her kill it and be that leader time and time again. She had a great game on Thursday too.
I know. She's a wonderful leader and she's developed so incredibly as well. And she's a beautiful person.
Yeah, she is.
She's such a beautiful soul and she's wonderful for the team and for morale. And, you know, having her as a co-captain at Origin, that says everything that you need to know about her. Like, she just leads from the front. And she's an incredible human. I've got all the time in the world for Izzy.
Yeah. Aren't we
We've got some great people in this game, don't we?
I know. There's so many of them that you just are so proud to see spotlighted, I think, for sure. Now, as of last week, we started asking you guys, our listeners, for some questions, and you've really delivered. We've got a couple more to go through today. The first one I've got, I think, is potentially the hardest question to answer at the moment. It's from Brock, and they've asked, who's winning the grand final? I thought I was confident on this before the season started. I now am like, what is going on? This is really tough.
I know, this is a tough question. Prior to the season, I was saying that probably the Roosters were going to be far and away. They've got an incredible roster. Still do, obviously. There's just the one injury that they've missed out on, but then they picked up Grace Hamilton, who
I mean,
pretty
what a
handy.
pickup. Yeah.
So I'd say Roosters are probably still bookies' favourites.
Yeah.
Can I say that? Bookies' favourites?
Sure.
There's probably still the favourites.
Yeah.
However, I will say the Titans,
Yeah.
they have been very impressive to start this year. They've won in a number of different ways, which I think is the key to this season, especially as it progresses. And, you know, we're only coming up to round 4. So there's still a long way to go, which is exciting. Yeah. So it'll just then come down to that week in, week out grind to sort of see who can step up. You know, but every single team has capacity to be there
100%
at the end. And I think that's why this extended competition this year is so exciting for me, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Isn't that the best thing ever? Like, to not be able to answer that confidently, because I felt the same at the beginning. I was like, Roosters on paper, definitely going to be this like far and away front runners, but I'm loving watching the Titans too. And I was speaking to Karen Murphy just after full time on the weekend, and she said to me, who would want to be a coach after an end like that? But they've shown this real resilience and this depth, and they've had a few big names out too. So, I mean, it's anyone's game, but I feel quite good about what the Titans are looking like at the moment. Yeah. I still can't confidently say who's going to win it.
I couldn't confidently say it, but I would, I've already said who I think.
Yeah.
But anyone could go for this. Anybody can make a run for this. So, it'll just be how healthy the roster stays, how much they sink into that week in, week out grind, and how they can handle that and just keep turning up, because that's new. Yeah. That's new for the competition. So that is going to play a really big part come the back end of the year. But so far, I love the level of competition that we have, and I love the skill level that's on display. Yes. And I think it is very clear that the question of depth has been asked and answered. It's very clear. So that is even more exciting.
Yeah, well, the other question we had from a listener was, do you think the Titans are the real deal? Yes. And that came from Rob, and I think we're sort of answering that. So I'm going to steal your question here, Rob, and instead ask, we're now coming up to the 4th round, and do you think that enough has been put on show to kind of silence any questions or critics of this expansion?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it just shows when the Raiders, as a new franchise, come out and they beat heavy favourites Roosters, then they go back home the next week and they put the performance in that they did against the Tigers.
Yeah.
And then the Roosters bounce back and put on the performance they did on Thursday night. Then the Titans come down missing a couple of key players. The Sharks get out to a quick start, look like they've got it in the bag.
Yep.
And then the Titans find something. They just find something. And then obviously the Broncos just came and put a stamp on the competition as well. So, I think that question has easily been asked and answered. And, I can't wait for it to get bigger.
Yeah.
Let's go, more teams.
Yes, absolutely. Well, with that, we've now got to look at this upcoming round 4. Every NRLW game is live and free on 9 and 9 now. Make sure you're tuning in because all of these games have massive moments that you want to watch in real time, can I say, because the excitement is palpable. Starting on Saturday, down in Wollongong at Wynn Stadium, we've got the Dragons and the Raiders. Interesting matchup. Dragons coming off a loss, Raiders flying high. What are you looking out for in that one?
I am looking for the halves battle here, which for me, surprising, people who know me, because I'm always like, the forwards, that's where it's won, it's where it's lost, it's where you set it up. And it's all of those things. But I am really excited to see these halves pairings go to battle against each other because last week I saw probably the most dominant halves performance with Zahara Tamara and then backed up the next day by Ray McGregor.
Yeah.
On the weekend, I saw Ash Quinlan step up and take that game by the scruff of the neck and really bring her running game into it. And everyone knows in such a short period of time what Tyler Nathan Wong can actually produce. So, yes, I think through the middle is where it is going to be won or lost.
Yeah.
So whichever forward pack can gain that ascendancy, that can gain that field position and that control, their halves pairing will be the one that kicks on with this game and they will dictate how many points are scored. So that's what I'm really looking forward to this. I know it's at Wynn Stadium, so it's down in Wollongong, but the Raiders, I can't go past what I've been seeing out of their camp. Like, they've been so strong across the board. And, Arpy Nichols had a couple of errors on the weekend, which was unusual for her. But what I loved more about that, she flushed those errors and then came up with some incredible plays at the back end of the game to help secure victory. So I'm tipping the Raiders, even though it is in Wollongong. I'm tipping the Raiders just through what I feel like their forward pack can do, how dominant they can be. The biggest worry for me was to see if Matua would pull through that HIA. Like, she was cleared on the day and came back. She's been named, but I think her punch off the bench along with Grace Kemp is fantastic. And Emma Barnes was another one who she took a bit of a head knock on the weekend, and she's really nice and bright. Out of when she comes off the bench for them, she adds some really good leg speed and ruck recognition. So for such a young player to come and do that is really exciting. And then obviously looking at the Dragons, when Maddie Weatherall comes on, she's a powerhouse and she gets under people's skin too. Like, you saw what she did to, I think it was Kennedy Cherrington the week before, when she just got in her face with absolutely everything that she had. So, and then they look like they've got Renee Targett starting at 9 and Carla Cowan at lock. So instead of bringing Carla Cowan on or starting her as a 9, they've got that extra ball playing ability through the middle. So I envisage that they would want to move that ruck around, try and tire out the big forwards of the Raiders, because obviously Hollyman was enormous, as was Kelly Signs for the Raiders. So they've got to try and want to move them around laterally and tire them out. And then off the back of that, that's hopefully that their halves can step in and then create some really great opportunities for Tegan Berry and the other wingers and centres outside of them. So, I think this is going to be a tight game, but I still think the Raiders are going to find a way to win this one. Yeah,
they're looking really good in their form. Also, fun little side note, come Friday morning after that game, on their way back to Wollongong, Bobby Law and Tyler Nathan Wong popped by my place. This is
to see the puppy?
Not to see the puppy, to actually use my sauna. I say my sauna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a sauna in our place. This is not.
Money bag.
Well, it's definitely my housemate's money that is helped with that. But Tyler and Bobby and Sophie Clancy, they all live together.
Oh, yeah.
And they all came by to use the sauna and that. And Tyler, I'd seen that she'd been quite strapped up on her arm, and so I was asking her about that. Yeah, now these days, my friends who play, I end up putting my sideline hat on when I'm talking, like, what's the go there? Like, what's the go? She's like, she had, I think, a cork or something.
Oh, yeah.
But they were saying that they were obviously a bit sad with what had happened, but they felt really good in sort of the opening 10 minutes, and I think they held their own against the Roosters.
Yeah, they
too.
did, but the Roosters bashed them. The Roosters' middles, their forwards are so strong.
So I think they'll be looking to.
They'll want to bounce it. They will definitely have a response.
Yeah.
It's just whether they can continue to go with them. That'll be the biggest test. But I don't know about you, Jordan, but I've never been invited for a sauna.
Well, there's a bit of a waiting list, but I'll put you on it and I'll let you know when the time comes.
This is like an expensive restaurant. I'll put you on the waiting list. The wait list is 7 months.
Rue, you can come whenever you want, Jordan. No, don't you?
I'll bring my light and easy meal.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have that
have a little
sauna, a bit of a wellness session. After we're finished in Wollongong, we go up north. We head to Brisbane. It's going to be a very hot day in Brizzy.
Ooh, yeah.
27 degrees is what's predicted. So I'm going to be sweating on the sideline.
Ooh, yeah.
Looking forward to that. Double header at Totally Workwear Stadium, starting with the Cowboys and the Tigers.
This is going to be a big test for both teams. Both teams are coming off the performances on the weekend. And the Tigers, their response after the Raiders got off to such a quick start was so impressive.
Yeah.
It was just, they didn't panic.
Yeah.
And they just found their way into the grind and they just got into an arm wrestle and then just points started flowing off the back of it. And it was obviously the way that Christian Pio and Salatonga Tuki moved the ball, like obviously physically imposing, but also their ability to shift that ball nice and quickly and crisply through the hands just adds so much for the middle for the Tigers. And then, off the back of that, it's really important that, I think Jakaya Whitfield was kept quiet, which is really smart by the Raiders to try and shut her down. The week before, you saw what she did. She just tore the Sharks apart. She was amazing. And then, in a side that was beaten, Leanne Tafunga had a really good outing as well. So they've got strike out wide, and they just need to be able to get nice, clean and early ball out there. And then, obviously, the Cowboys as well. Tallulah Tillett is back. She's named.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. That's really exciting for me. So this is the first time that we're actually going to see the Cowboys with that starting lineup that we thought they were going to have at the start of the year. On the weekend as well, I thought Fran Goldthorpe probably had her best game in the NRLW yet. Yeah. And for someone, she's so young too. Yeah. She's still got so much more improvement in her.
I think that looking at both of these squads, what they have in common is that youth, that real young, and fresh talent, which is so good to see.
It's exciting. And Tallulah Tillett fits that bill every day of the week. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she goes with Kira Dibb. And then obviously that adds another kicking option for the Cowboys. So another layer of dimension and strike, which is really exciting. And then it looks like they're starting with Talisha Harden, where she's been coming off the bench recently, and she's been doing a really good job coming off the bench for them. And obviously just to try and shut down that strike of Tongatuki and Pio with their ability to offload and just punch holes. Well, Salah could punch a hole through a brick wall.
Yeah.
She's just so tough and she runs so well. So that's going to be a really... And April Ngatapuna is starting as well. So obviously they're looking for a bit more size and a bit more strike, trying to punch in and collapse the Tigers through the middle there. So I think this is going to be a really tough one. I'm tipping the Tigers to have a response after their loss on the weekend. Yep. But I'm not convinced because the Cowboys have so much strike with Tallulah Tillett back in that lineup as well. Really exciting. But I think in a close one, I'm tipping the Tigers in a very close one.
Ooh,
very close one.
That will be, I'm feeling like that will be really tight as well.
Yep.
I feel like the Cowboys could get on top there just quietly, but we'll see what happens. Following that, at the same stadium in Brisbane, we will have the Broncos and the Eels. Now, Broncos had that beautiful win. The Eels now without Kennedy, but get the inclusion of Rach Pearson. She's back. Is Elsie back?
Yes.
Yes. So they're both back, which is awesome. And we're really, I've been dying to see Elsie in those colours at the new club. So what are you thinking we're going to see in this one?
I think this one, the Eels have just been struggling to find points of late, and having Rachel Pearson back in there is going to help that immensely because obviously she is very well known as an organiser. Her kicking game is very strong. She can just manage that team really, really well. And I think also like Perryman Duff has been playing very well too. So having Rachel in there with her, that will definitely add a bit more dimension to their attack. And then obviously Elsie back up front, she'll just be able to just punch some holes through the middle and they can play off the back of that. She can give them the time and space that they need to get some really good field position away. And interestingly as well, which I don't mind this move, Mahalia Murphy, he's moved her to second row.
Right.
So I actually don't mind that because she hasn't, for my liking, she hasn't been getting enough ball out at centre. And she's somebody that you want to be getting her hands on the ball as much as possible. She has significant strike power. She's strong. She's quick. She runs a really good hard line, which is obviously why they've moved her into that second row. And I really like that. And then that obviously means that Monique Donovan will start on the wing. Cassie Tohu-Hiku will move to centre as well. So I don't mind that little change up. Yeah. I really don't mind that for the Eels because I think, obviously Mahalia is a really, really good option to hit on those short lines, and she's got the leg speed and the skill set to be able to, if she can skip, she can find some space and then she can pull her winger onto the ball with a nice long pass. So with that sevens background that she has. Yeah. So I don't mind that move. Okay. I don't mind that move by Dean Witters. And then my only thing is I just think the Broncos are going to be too strong. Yeah. Even with all of the positives that are happening for the Eels this week, what I saw out of that Broncos outfit last week.
Yeah, it was vintage Bronco stuff.
Impressive. And, Ali Brigginshaw was fantastic. She was playing up on the ball, and she has been all season. And her kicking game, her game knowledge and her game smarts is just coming to the form as the season progresses more and more. And that's going to become really important as the season moves on. And, so I really like what the Broncos brought last week. So I find it really hard to go past them. Yeah. I really do. I find it hard. So also I think Gal Broughton played pretty well last week too. Her footwork was fantastic. She was setting up her plays really nicely, and she was spotting short sides, or she was spotting when they'd presented like what we call a wide four. So if they're near a post, when you're near a post, you've got 4 defenders on one side and 6 on the open side. And then if it's a wide enough 4, then if you've got the leg speed, you can just skip and just go and pull someone in. And she was doing that really beautifully. She was spotting up those short sides and she was spotting up the wide spacing, which I really like. So having her in that 6 role has been so good. Yeah. So good for the Broncos.
She's transitioned so well into it.
So good for the Broncos. And, still no Julia Robinson. So hopefully we see her back soon because they do miss her punch, especially through yardage, because she's so strong. So strong. She's such a good carry. But I think the Broncos are going to be too strong here.
Then we get to Sunday. We start with the Sharks and the Roosters. PointsBet Stadium, Cronulla. Now, this is an interesting matchup, I think. Sharks looking to bounce back after just losing right at the end there. Yeah. Roosters looking really dominant last weekend.
Yes, this will be a massive test for the Sharks, and it'll be a big test for the forwards of the Sharks because we saw on Thursday how the Roosters forwards just tore the Dragons apart. Yeah. And that's what they have in them. I mean, I didn't even mention in our review or preview, whatever it was, Tuila Fotumoala, she's back. She's been back for a couple of weeks now, and she was just punching up, getting some offloads away, moving really well. So I think the key here is if you can shut down those middles from getting too much leg speed or just creating too much momentum, then the ball that gets out to their strike weapons in Jess Surgis and Isabelle Kelly is a little more static. Okay. Because you don't want them getting clean ball with a head of steam. No. Because you will not win. You won't win that one. No. Those two will run through absolutely anything. And they can always bust that first tackle. So that's what's going to be really important for the Sharks. They just need to try and control that and minimise the amount of good ball that gets out to those strike weapons. And then, for the Roosters, I loved what they brought on Thursday night. I thought they were controlled, they were physical, they punched up, they worked through their game plan really nicely. And then off the back of that, it meant that Taryn Aiken had her best performance of the season so far. And she's a talent. She's an incredible athlete. And even her short kicking game has really picked up as well. Like they forced 3 set restarts, I think, as well. So the game plan of them getting into the grind and just owning that middle and then, creating that sort of those extra sets of 6 off the back of it is really working for them. And that's going to be really important for the Sharks to shut down. Obviously, positives for the Sharks, so Jada Taylor named to return. And Emma Tonegado is still in at 6.
And is Hadata Butler back?
She's back.
Awesome.
She's back. So she's named on the bench as well. So that's a really good punch because she's got a lot of that really good aggression that you need to try and shut down this Roosters pack. And Holly Wheeler's been named to start for the Sharks.
Wasn't she good on the weekend? Like
she
loved seeing her back.
Yep.
And she came out firing.
Yeah.
I tell you something else that I loved last round at the Roosters game. John Strange being on the sideline from kickoff. I spoke to him at the end of the match and he said that first of all, we were in the SCG, so you're a bit far away in the coach's box, but he also just really wanted to be close and be able to talk to the girls as they kind of came on and off. And I think it made for a really interesting impact just to see him like that. And even if it was just an optics thing, there was something about it that showed this like real unified front and this look to like bounce back hard, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about it during the call as well, and someone said, what do you think of that? And I said, I actually love that. Yeah. Because you can feel what's happening. You know what they need at that time. You're not relying on a message being relayed to you through a radio. You can actually, you have a tangible feel of what the game is doing or how the emotions are running and what you need to do to tweak that. Yeah. So I think that was really smart. Yeah. It was really smart for him. But also I think this weekend is world first. Yeah. So it's going to be John Strange coaching the Roosters, Jasmine Strange playing for the Knights, and Ethan Strange playing for the Raiders.
Massive.
Isn't all at the top level in
cool.
rugby league in Australia, in NRL and NRLW. And I think that is pretty special. That's very special and spectacular. And Ethan was so good in the 19
Wasn't
game
he just?
A few weeks ago. And, Jazzy, for her to come back, she had a significant knee injury not that long ago. For her to come back and be playing at this level is great. Yeah. And also, her dad, having tasted some incredible success at the Roosters with premiership. Yeah. And for him to be back and continuing to coach in the women's space.
What really a proud weekend for the Strange family for sure. Well, following that game, the last one of the round, we will see Jasmine Strange featured in the Knights versus Titans match at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle.
You're going to ask me a question?
Or sorry. I was just taking a dramatic pause there. No. We have already spoken about how impressive the Titans looked in being able to hold on and get that win on the weekend. The Knights were so dominant.
So dominant.
This is going to be a great matchup.
This is going to be a cracker. And there's some great matchups over the weekend, but I feel like, again, the final game of the round is going to be the one to watch. I think this is going to be the one that people will tune in and say, hang on, what is going on? And I am really fortunate. I'm going to be on the sideline up there for this one. So I'm going to be in the thick of it. Yeah. I'm going to be feeling it firsthand. And, I think especially after the Knights lost unexpectedly to the Cowboys, for them to turn around and put in that performance that they did is really impressive. Also, Rima Butler has been huge for them. She's been so fantastic. Used really, really well as well, like used in the right way. And I really like what Jessie's been doing. She's been sort of a little bit quieter, but you can just see that she's waiting and finding her time to get in there and to actually move things around. So that's going to be interesting to see how her and Georgia Roach work together. Yeah. And just see how that unfolds as the game progresses. So, I think there's a lot of matchups across the field in this one, but particularly, and I will unapologetically say this, the forwards. Yeah. So the middles. I think this one especially. So Simone Karpani, Rima Butler starting up front, and then Shannon Marto, Jess Elliston up front for the Titans. that is going to be key to see how things progress. And obviously Lauren Brown is named to start as well for the Titans, where we've sort of been seeing her come off the bench
It's
a little
interesting the way that she's being used.
Yeah. And it's been used very intelligently, and it's working.
Yeah.
It's working for them, which I really like. So, but another key to this one, another key matchup is going to be Hannah Southwell v Georgia Hale. So Hannah, obviously, defensive beast.
Yeah.
Georgia tackles everything that moves, but with the ball in hand, she's very dangerous. She creates a lot of second phase play just through her ball movement because she's got a halves background. So that is another one that we're going to have to really keep our eye on and see how that one goes. But I feel like the Knights are going to hand the Titans their first loss of the season at home.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, just because the Titans have had a fair bit of travel and they've had some tight wins over the last couple of weeks. And I don't think it's because of skill or whatever. I just think that maybe the Knights might be a little bit more fresh.
Yeah, okay.
So even,
I did see Caitlin Johnson say, in the lead up to the last round, that the loss she saw as a blessing in disguise to maybe kick them back into gear, get them to reassess and work on those things. And we saw them come out firing this weekend. So
yeah. And she's not in the side this week, Caitlin.
Yeah.
So it is going to be tough, but I think Yazzie Clydesdale really stood up.
Yeah, she did
on the weekend as well, and I love her as a player.
Yeah,
she's just everything you want in a footballer.
You know what? We haven't even talked about the fullbacks in that game.
No,
in Ivania Politi and Tamika Upton.
So that is going to be a massive matchup.
Yeah.
But again, the forwards have to be able to hold their own so that their strike weapons can actually get good ball in their hands. And Tamika Upton is one of the most dominant players in the game. And Vanny has had an absolute flying start to NRLW this year.
100%.
She has been so impressive. So, that is going to be a massive matchup. I'm really excited.
I definitely agree. It's going to be the game of the round, I think.
Yeah. But I'm tipping the Knights at home.
Okay. Well, we've got a big weekend of NRLW to look forward to. Make sure you're tuning in to every single game, live and free on 9 and 9 now. But for now, Rue, this is the end of the show. Thank you so much for your insight. I feel like I learn something every single week we're in here. Like the way that you describe things, you can tell that's why you're a great coach. And
thanks.
You're coaching me through this too, so I appreciate it.
I think it just shows I'm a footy nerd.
Yeah, we love it. That's what we're here for. Make sure you're subscribing wherever you're listening and send your questions in for when we're next in the studio. And we'll catch you next time.